Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to try and solve a viewer's request. The request was, how do I set the spring for this anti-reverse toggle on the Penn reel? There's that override here. This one's an interesting little setup. We'll get into that. This is on the Penn 720. It's part of the Greenie series, or the Z series. You won't find this one just separately listed as that, but it was a modification made to it from a cosmetic standpoint that just kind of came up with the blue case, the white dials, and so on. And I was able to find this one at a flea market, and a viewer had written in saying, I'm having all kinds of trouble with this thing and setting the spring. Can you show me how to do it? Well, it's been a while. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Stay tuned, we'll find out. But the 720 is a nice little example of a Penn Spinfisher reel, early on design, 1960s. Kind of competed with the Mitchell 300. Even looks a little bit like the Mitchell 300 in some regards. So we'll kind of do that. Now, I did a full service video on the 720. If you want to do that, please search my library. We're going to kind of cut to the chase on this one so that we can show how that spring is installed. But if you like these kinds of videos, if you enjoy the art of reel repair, if you like to learn how reels are made, if you like to learn a little bit about the fishing reels themselves, then I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know what I'm posting and when. I handle all kinds of reels. This happens to be an older version of a Penn reel. I work on freshwater, saltwater, and everything in between. And if you want to see how they get serviced, this is a good place to kind of watch that. All right, well, there's a whole bunch of old grease there, so I guess it's time to put a glove on. I wasn't quite thinking I was going to need that to show that spring replacement, but, well, this reel hasn't been serviced in a while. You can tell by all that chocolate-colored grease there, and it's always good for me to protect what I can when I'm doing this. So first one off here, just going to mop up a little bit. And those of you that watch the other reel know that this is the crosswind block, and it's kind of held on by a staple kind of a thing. It's a two-pronged little piece here. So we're going to go ahead and take that out. Use my micro pliers for that. That's the staple that holds it on. And then once that staple is on, or out of there, you can pull up and out on your axle shaft. Like that. You can remove the spool with it. You don't have to take the spool off. And all of this has to come out in order to service that spring. And you can see we've got a whole bunch of taffy colored something in there. And we'll do the best as I can while I'm cleaning this up to kind of show you how that kind of comes together and works for you. I want to take my handle off next. That comes off in a clockwise manner. And then we want to move to take the rotor off. And this is an early reel, so the dimensions on this reel are standard. They're not metric. So these are US threaded nuts and bolts. Later, as they moved production over to China, well, all that stuff became metric. Okay. So this should remove our pinion gear now. Just pull that out. I believe it's a long, thin screw. And now we should be able to raise up and out of the way the pinion gear. And all of those pieces and parts that I take off go into a parts tray so that I know where to find them later. Now we still got a puddle of grease here, so let's go ahead and grab a little screwdriver as a scraper and get all of that stuff out of there. And the proof is in the pudding, right? You can always tell when the last time a reel was serviced by how fresh that grease looks like. Sort of like when an automobile mechanic, asks you when the last time you got your oil change was, and well, you can't remember. You say, oh, I think it was a couple of thousand miles ago, and then the stuff looks like deep coffee or something. From their experiences, they know it's been a lot longer than whatever the recommended service interval is. All right, I'm just going to pull that main gear out. Underneath the main gear, we have a Teflon washer. So let's take that out of the way. And we're getting to the point now where you can almost see the way that this is going to work. Let me grab a cotton swab. I want to get all of this out so we can get nice clear pictures of what's going on here. I think I probably want to do a little squirt with some penetrating oil. And while we're doing this, I want to tell you that I'm open to answering questions. If you have a question on this reel or any reel, if you want to leave that question in the comment section, I will try to answer that question for you. And every now and then, if I happen to have a piece that maybe you're working on that you need an assist on visually, a lot of us are visual learners, I'm one of those, and I can help you by maybe doing something like this, I'll certainly try, or at least I'll let you know, and we can go from there. All right, so this spring then, I'm going to be careful about this now, but we have an override spring here. You're going to see that it's a loop spring. And let's see if we can bring this up close and personal. I want to show you how it sits first. We have a spring tag that loads on the right side of the stud here, wraps around this point, and then seats on the other side of the post on this one. So with that in mind now, let's take this off. I'm going to hold the spring in place. And now we can show you the spring and how the spring loads on. So we have the spring, the point, wrapped around the stud. Okay, spring, point, wrapped around the stud. Let's take the spring out so that you get a better view of that. This is the spring that controls that anti-reverse dog. I hope we can see that there. Maybe it's better if I put it against a white background. So it's kind of a funky looking spring. And I'm just going to take a second here. I'm going to leave that right there. I'm going to try and be careful not to lose that spring. Clean the case up the rest of the way. And then show you how to load that up. So it's real easy to lose the orientation on these pieces. So what you want to do is just take pictures along the way. This is the way we're going to install it. It's going to sort of look like a letter G. And again, it's going to go to the right side. It's going to sit in the case like that. Well, as I mentioned, the issue here is always on installing the backdrop to this. So you're going to have a dog that's going to sit in here, which means that's the bottom. So this is the side that's facing us this way. And then you want to just kind of insert over the top, just like that. That's kind of the way it's going to work. Then you want to rotate like that, and then that's your setup, just like that. When you bring it out by raising this up, that spring is going to push it up, and it's going to intersect with the gear. So let me just do that again. Okay, so again, you want to seat your spring that looks like the letter G. You want to make sure that you're setting the dog on the right side. So go get your main gear, which I'm going to clean up, and make sure that you find the way that it nests in that little click ratchet there. That's the bottom. So this is the side that's going to face you. And this is the side that's going to wrap around that little tag end there. So just go ahead and put it in just like that. That wasn't hard, right? You just lay it over. And even though it's not nested in completely into that tag arm, it will get there. And how does it get there? Well, you're going to move it this way with your finger, and then you're going to reset the dog just like that. All right? So that's everybody's question answered quickly. And of course, when you do the overthrow here, Well, it looks like it's running out of space here. It looks like there's no way that that should just float freely. But it's not, because the click ratchet on the main gear is going to take that. Well, if you want to stick around a minute, I'll show you the rest of the service, even though I've done the other video on it. So let's just go ahead and clean this one up. This won't take much time at all. We have a bunch of dirt on the back here that's affecting the spin on, probably the catch on this dog as well. So I'm just going to grab my cotton swab, and I find from a cleaning perspective, most of the time, if you can get away with a minimally abrasive cleaning agent, whether it's a cotton swab, a paper towel, or something like that. They're usually very good just like that. And then if you want to mop it dry. And we've cleaned the front of this gear, but there's still a little bit left on here. So I'm going to go with the wire brush to pull it out of the channel. Quick squirt onto the main part where that crosswind block is going to ride. Grab that cotton swab again, clean all of that out. And that's what you need to do in terms of that. Then inspect. Make sure that all of your channels are free of grease and dirt and debris, and that the gear is done nicely, which this one is. I put all my stuff in the parts tray. That helps me locate things. And as you know, we took that little Teflon washer off the back. Well, it's on the gear now. We want to get some grease onto the shaft that's going to ride in the bushing on the side case. Let's go ahead and grab the grease, and we'll get a good amount of grease into this gear. And then we can reload the gear into the side plate. Just like that. And of course, you know, we had a handle here, and I like to put the handle back on. And I like to do that because it'll hold the main gear in place while I go to put the pinion gear on. That's close enough. And now let's grab that pinion gear. This is a bushing collar, so you want to clean out underneath. This little indentation here is where that screw that you saw is going to ride. There is a little shim washer on the bottom of this, and then that screw that you saw is going to hold it in, going to ride in the center cavity here. So that'll hold the assembly in place. And a little bit of grease on the outside doesn't hurt that. We'll go ahead and put that back in. Oops, let's put a little bit of grease onto the bottom end. So these reels were just variations on a theme. It's a color thing. If you go and get the 720Z, it's going to be the same reel, just this one has the blue casing to it. And a lot of folks like that. Find your little hole here in that casing. You want to line that up with the hole for the screw. Sometimes a little pick like this is going to help. And once you have that located, I go into my parts tray. Let's go ahead and dig that out. So we got lucky. I went to a little flea market, and one of the vendors had one of these for sale. And I thought to myself, gee, I can get one of these. I don't have one in my shop, and I can answer a viewer's question. What's better than that? All right, take the rotor assembly, and again, I wasn't intending to show you the full service on this. As long as it's working, put some penetrating oil on there to loosen it up. This one has an interesting feature. It has a collapsible feature for storage. If you pull this over, your bail will come down for storage so that it doesn't get ruined in transport. Let's go ahead and put that back on. There's a little bit of dirt underneath there. There's no sense putting it back on with the dirt. Go ahead and mount that up. Sometimes you'll knock the keyway out, which is what I just did there. Find the two flat sides to the pinion gear. Again, I know my hand's in the way and I apologize for that. Load that in. Go ahead into your parts tray, get that nut, put the nut on. And you need a ratchet for this. You can't reach this with a open-end box wrench because of the lip. Give it a turn. That's a beautiful operating reel. I'm going to turn it so that I can bring the stud out of the way. We've got our crosswind block here. I'm going to get some grease on that. That's the only part of the crosswind block that requires grease. Go ahead and put that on. We have 2 holes in our axle shaft. Just make sure that those align with the holes in the crosswind block as you come down. It's a kind of a visual set. We just had one of these. What a shame. It was a beautiful reel. The block broke and you just can't get the block. Kind of unusual but true. And then I'm going to just make sure that I'm in those holes by using my pick. And I'm going to get, for lack of a better term, the cable staple. I'm going to put that in. And you want to make sure that goes all the way down. Now test. We should have a nice freely spinning reel, and we should have an oscillation system now, and we do, just like that. Only one thing left to do here, and again, this wasn't intended as a full service, but we've pretty much fully serviced the reel. The only thing we haven't done is the drag washers. I've done them. They are Teflon drag washers. So you just want to make sure that they're nice and clean and that you've got the debris out from underneath the spool. And just to do this right, we got a little leakage here on the old grease, so one more shot here before we put the main screw back in. Get that screw. There's nothing left in my parts tray. And if this did have a malfunctioning anti-reverse override, we now know how to solve the issue of setting that spring for this reel. So again, ask your questions. If I can help you, I will try to do that. All right, we have the back pedal now. I'm going to just set the handle a little bit more. Right now it's in free spool, right? And that's the way you should always load your main gear, is without the anti-reverse. Bring it up to the anti-reverse. Oh, you know that click. You know what that click means. It means it's working. And that's it. That is your Penn Spinfisher 720. How to set the anti-reverse dog spring. And while you're at it, how to tune up the rest of the reel. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have some questions, I encourage you to ask. If you like these kinds of videos, please subscribe. If you enjoyed this one, please like it as well. To all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. And to everybody, have a great day fishing. Make a lot of friends, catch some fish, and, well, make memories. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.